and Measure K. So it currently says review of the 2021 Measure J, and we're going to add and Measure K audit reports. Both of those reports were attached and made made available to the public and to the committee, but the title just needed to be corrected.
Any second? Thank you. Do you want to call the roll?
We don't actually have to do roll unless someone is absent, but yes, we could ask for an audible.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is the approval of the agenda. Any comments? Do I hear a motion? Approve it?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Second? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Monthly communications. Adam, do we have any?
We have no public comments that I've received.
Thank you. Okay, the next item is to review the Measure J and Measure K audit reports.
I have a presentation tonight, and I just stayed to introduce our auditor, Mr. Royce Townsend, who was our primary person responsible for oversight of the audit. Thank you for joining us tonight, Royce.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Cool. So
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I am here this evening to report for you the audit financial statements specific to measures J and K. And let me move this over to my primary screen so it doesn't look like I'm ignoring you when I look at the screen. And
is there something you'd like to share?
That encompasses both a financial statement audit, and which means that we're looking at the internal controls that support the numbers as well as other compliance areas, and a performance audit, which is solely looking at compliance. And I always like to preface every presentation just to talk a little bit about what an audit is. The audit provides reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are free of material misstatement. And that's, of course, in contrast to total assurance. Total assurance would mean that we look at every single transaction, and that's not what the audit does. Now, everything in the reports themselves is the information of the district. The only part of the reports, of the audit report, which is the auditors, is the opinions that we're offering on the specific areas, the financial statements themselves and the performance. And all of this is done through a risk assessment. That's where we live and breathe, is through risk assessment. So, it's best if we just go to the reports themselves, and specific to Measure J, the auditor's opinion was unmodified. And that's always the opinion that you want to hear, meaning that there were no modifications that were made to our opinion. There was a material weakness identified. However, there were no significant deficiencies identified. And that really summarizes the outcome of the audit. As it relates to the performance audit, now here what we're charged with doing is looking at expenditures and making sure that they are found to be in compliance with Article 13A of the state constitution, as well as the requirements of Measure J. And we tested approximately 71% of your expenditures for Measure J, and there was almost $10 million. We did not identify any that we found to be not in compliance. Now, moving over to Measure K, again, an unmodified opinion as it relates to our opinion on the financial statements as a whole. Again, a material weakness, however, no significant deficiencies identified. And with that, this one is a relatively new issuance, so there wasn't a lot of expenditures. So with that said, our sample included all of the expenditures, 100%. And again, we did not identify any that were not in compliance with Article 13A of the state constitution or the requirements of Measure K as voted upon by those community members. So with that said, that presents the outcome of those two audits. And as always, I'm here to answer any questions that you may have regarding the audit.
Does anybody have any questions?
Regarding the audit itself, or what is in it?
Well, I would say both.
Okay. Yeah, I actually did, but I think it's more of a school district thing.
Okay.
But one of the things is on page 4 of the Measure J audit.
Yes.
The expenditures does say salaries and benefits. And I do know that there are expenditures towards salaries allowed within the bond itself. But
Right.
is there any way to break that down? I'm curious, that's a large amount of money and I'm wondering where it went. That may not be in the audit. That may be something else that I would like to see, but that's one of my questions.
Yes.
For your next meeting.
To answer your question, you're right. The audit is a summarized level of information. And if you need more detail regarding what actually makes up that line item, then I would definitely reach out to your district.
We'll give you a report, but essentially it's Adam's salary and benefits, Alan's salary and benefits, and then I think one
Kelly's.
quarter.
Yeah,
Oh, Kelly.
Kelly,
is
yeah.
our, Kelly's our bond maintenance skilled worker that we added because we were essentially, and there's a board item in this from like a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago that we can go find, but essentially as a cost savings, because there are a lot of in-house work that can be done without
Sure.
having, so for example, if we're gonna paint part of the Matilaha Auditorium foyer, right? We can bid that out, or we can go out and it was gonna be $10,000, or if we do it in-house, it's 1 day of work or 2 days of work. And so that was a ultimate cost saving measure, but we'd be happy to provide that. And I think there's maybe 1/4 of a admin assistant. So, but we can give you a report of what all of that was.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions for the auditor?
Let's see, that's what I think.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I don't want to keep him any
Yeah.
longer than we have to.
Yeah.
We appreciate your coming and providing that information.
Not a problem at all. And thank you again for having me here this evening.
Thank you very much, Royce.
Thanks, Royce.
Thanks.
Oh, I know.
And I would just share with this committee that the material weakness, which we had in also our district reports, really is related to, and I shared this in the public board meeting, but at some point last year, we ended up with 4 out of 5 employees in the business office being put on administrative leave while we did an investigation. And so there were some things during that time that we had either no one doing the work or we had untrained temporary staff doing the work. And so there were some things in terms of reconciliation of accounts, things like that, that will be better when we have a fully staffed business office with trained individuals who are doing the work. But for 7 months out of the last fiscal year, we were not fully staffed. And so the fact that we were able to get through this with all of this intact, but with some material weakness is not surprising, but something that we're aware of and absolutely working to correct as soon as we can get staffing and training.
So then my question is, the audit is as of June 30th, 2021. And I think that Jennifer is going to have kind of the same questions on the things that were found, a little bit of misstatements or the reconciliation wasn't done at the proper time or something. Do we have to know if that's been taken care of now? Or is this only as of this date with this report? I don't care what happens afterwards if it gets fixed. So I need to know where I'm looking at this. You know, does that make sense?
All the reconciliations have been done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, so it was a process issue. So when they came and did the audit and they said, this doesn't match. And then we did the reconciliation and I think we had to do some, not transfers. We had to make the corrections.
Right, some accruals should have been on and they didn't show up or whatever.
Yes,
then there
and
was
so
the
we made all of those
reconciliation,
adjustments.
Yeah, of $700,000. So
Yeah.
is it our job to make sure those things have been done since June of 2021 or not? That's what I need to know. Where my
So
so I can.
the auditors would not have, they would have given us a significant deficiency or a modified opinion if we had completed those.
Oh,
things.
okay, good. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
It's an interesting question whether that's our job or not, because our job is to make sure the money is spent the way it's supposed to be spent
Right.
in accordance with the statute. It's an interesting question, but I don't think we have to
Okay.
decide on that at this point because it's been resolved, as I understand.
It has been, it wouldn't, we wouldn't have,
Yeah.
we have a different opinion from the auditor.
Yes.
if We hadn't been
Okay.
able to make that.
Yeah, we would not be, would be,
And we don't actually approve the auditor report. The
No.
board does that. So we
Right.
just are able
Yeah.
to see it. and
Yeah,
review
okay.
it.
we look at it.
Okay,
I
then-
wanted to have Royce here because I saw the headline in the OBN and I wanted to have Royce here to explain to you kind of what that meant. And to be able to explain to you, like I did to the board when we had this item on May 11th, just kind of what was happening last year in the business office that created some of this.
Had there been any other publicity about that, about what happened? Because I hadn't heard about that. So it was kept,
Yeah, because
it was personnel.
just because we're doing an investigation doesn't mean that there
No, I
was in
understand.
fact fraud and we wouldn't be able to share that with you. But at the end of the day, we did not have enough staff to do the required work. So, trained staff.
That explains it.
Okay, that's all the questions I have.
Any other questions about the audit report?
I think this kind of sums it up. My questions were for all of the deficiencies. Or one, how did it happen? Two, how do we fix it? Since it's already been fixed. And three, how do we not repeat it? It seems like you've answered those already.
Yeah, so we still, and I didn't bring this slide, I apologize, but made it so I can read it to you from my head. So 4 out of 5 employees in the business office were put on admin leave. 1 came back, 3 did not, and then our fiscal director resigned the month after that was all concluded. And so we still don't have a fiscal director. So I can't tell you today that everything is completely reconciled because we're still understaffed. We have 2 consultants working with us right now to help with the transition. We flew the fiscal director position twice. We did not find any qualified candidates. So how do we have it not happen again? We're still trying to solve that issue of how we have somebody in that position that will be able to guide and navigate this work. Right now, I'm confident that it's under control because we have 2 very, very experienced folks working in the business office who frankly out of our long-term price range. Like if we were to hire them straight into the business office, plus they're both retired and would much rather be golfing than working for us. But for right now, they're helping us to get the systems in place and to ensure that all of the necessary financials are straight. And working on our adopted budget and all of those kinds of things. So we still have some work to do. We're not totally out of the woods, but of the 5 positions that we have, we currently have those 5 employee level positions filled, and we have a CBO. We're just missing that kind of middle level manager that manages the whole project.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions about the audit report? Then we can move, I think, to the next agenda item, which is to discuss the annual.
Going to leave you at this point, but if you have any questions, you can always.
Tiffany, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sorry, before we move on, I just wanted to note, like Royce said, that of Measure J, we had $9.5 million total expenditures, and they actually sampled 6.7 million. So a little over 70%.
That's more than usual, isn't it?
It seems to be going up every year.
Yeah,
Which is good.
it's my recollection that it
First year, I
wasn't
think
quite
was
as much.
50 some odd percent. Last year it was my first year. Last year it was 60 some odd percent, and now it's 68%. I think now it's 71.2. So it is nice that it's going up. And last year we had a very similar expenditures as well, about $9.5 million. So
How much is
spending
left in,
money.
how much is left in J now?
So Jay, as of the other day, Jay is essentially done with it's about $1,400. So.
It's not.
Does that roll over to K? Or do you have to spend?
You have to spend it, and then what we'll do is we'll just roll into K. From an operational standpoint, as Alan and I are concerned, it's just status quo.
Yeah.
So, but from it's more of a business office.
Adam, I wanted to mention on that point, the $1,400 that's left in J is including what we have encumbered for J. So whether or not we actually spend all of that or not, but we're really close to the line, switching from J to K.
Thank you, Alan. Welcome to the meeting.
Yeah, I'm home with the COVID, but I'm alert and just
Hope you're
resting
feeling-
because I'm a little tired.
I hope you feel better soon.
Yeah, thank you.
So ready to move to the draft report, the bond report to the community?
John, do you need a copy? You can have my copy. And That's all right. I'll work off the computer. No problem.
I've just noted one just little spelling error, since we now have two audit reports on page 2, where it says note, the 2021 audit should be reports, plural, can be viewed on the district's website or the link below. Just add an S to the word reports.
And sorry, where was that? I just-
Oh, yeah, page 2,
Page 2.
Under the word note.
note should just be plural reports.
I was just looking at the first page. Neither you nor Alan are mentioned as in the group of people usually do in other places. Is there a reason why we didn't do it on the citizens report?
Why we didn't mention what?
Your name and Alan's name,
Staff members.
staff members.
Because technically we're not committee members.
I know, but you mentioned, where you got the administration and
Yeah,
I just thinking,
It's basically letterhead, and
yeah,
it's on the letterhead.
yeah, well,
So they're not
we
there.
can always change the letterhead.
yeah. I can certainly put staff below Amy's name. And put
I think it's good to do.
And is the report being prepared by people that aren't here also? Are they?
No, it's prepared by us.
So
Yeah,
so
it's
should
prepared.
Amy and Daryl be on it?
Who in?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, they should be on it.
Oh,
Because this is just a draft. We're just working on a draft.
okay.
We're not approving it yet.
okay.
We'll,
We'll approve it in June.
yeah, the June meeting will, so we're just going over the draft. And if anybody has any,
And you'll make sure they see the draft, and if they have any questions, they can bring them up at the
Yeah.
next meeting, right?
So I did have some.
we can amend it to the next meeting
We absolutely can. We can amend it and just say we approve it with these.
with these corrections and it'll
Like we've
be,
done in the past.
yeah, we've done that.
Okay.
This
I-
kind of goes back to our previous COC years where we actually have a little bit of time. We have a meeting to discuss it.
Yeah.
Last 2 years we haven't. So,
Okay, I have a question.
yes.
Okay, on page 2, section 1, it says Measure K expenditures during that fiscal year were 35,000.
Correct.
On page 4 of Measure K, it says expenditures were 224,275.
Correct.
Okay,
It's actually 224, whatever that number was.
224, 275.
Yes,
So this is wrong?
correct.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Got it.
you'll, actually, John's copy has my chicken scratch where it says
Yay, I
224,
caught something.
275 already.
Okay,
So,
great. So 224, 275 is going to be edited
Yes.
on that. Okay, great.
The, again, this is minor, but pages. You got like 7 of,
Yes.
every page number is 7 of
Every
7.
page number 7. So that's it.
Okay, I assume somebody did. Besides
I
me.
thought-
Kathy and I both saw it.
Oh, okay.
Mine's 1 through 7.
You must have got a later copy.
Oh, I might have, yeah.
So, yes.
Okay,
Okay. Then under where this says the committee finds and notes the following. Okay, so number 2, it says no exceptions.
where are you looking?
Page 2,
Mhm.
in section 1, where it says the committee finds and notes the following. In number 2, it says no exceptions were reported in the financial audit or performance audit conducted,
Correct.
but there were exceptions, but they've been fixed, correct?
In the financial audit.
In the financial audit, they consider it unmodified, so they didn't modify, they didn't
So there's no
change
exception.
anything, so I think that means the same.
Okay, I just
Um,
want to make sure the terminology is correct. Okay.
We could change that to say,
I'm just wondering.
We'll get out another
people
one.
just don't know what unmodified report is, so which one's more clear?
Right.
Yeah, pretend that you're me and you don't know, and maybe make it more clear, because I did not.
Do you think no exceptions makes more sense to more people than to say,
Well, if I looked at it and saw that there were exceptions, and I think that a lot of people might, if they actually go and look at it, they might see that and wonder.
What do they call it in the report when they say?
Unmodified. And maybe it should say the auditor's report declared that it was unmodified, which means no exceptions.
Yeah, well, to me, unmodified is no exceptions means a lot more to me.
Yeah.
And if that's the same, if it means, if the terminology is the same, I like no exceptions better.
Right, but,
I understand what you're saying too.
yeah, okay, yeah, so I'm fine.
just saying,
Yeah.
I don't know. What's the sense of the committee?
Yeah, it's up to you guys. I think no exceptions makes more sense to the general reader.
I do too.
Okay.
But I can understand that might be, if they say, well,
But that, I mean, I think it's easily answered if somebody raises that.
Okay,
That would be my.
okay, and that's fine. I'm just a new girl.
and,
Yeah, no,
no, and there were
Good
no
questions, don't ask, don't.
Yeah.
To
So
me-
can I ask a question about that? So the auditor's report is actually included with this report, right? So the auditor's report says unmodified. And now you're sort of summarizing what that report means and you're using the terms not, no exceptions. Is that right?
I think
Right.
that's correct.
Okay.
What do you think of that, Alan?
Yeah,
You think-
that's what I was saying. I think that since the auditor's report is a part of this package and that they say unmodified, then in your description or your report that includes their report, you're saying there's no exceptions. That's just sort of defining what they mean.
I agree with that. And I think that's a much easier understood term
Yes,
than unmodified to me is a little confusing.
it is, yeah.
because then the first question is, well, what does that mean?
What does that mean?
Yeah,
We've
yeah.
kind of said that is no.
Okay.
Okay,
Um,
you okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
Okay,
and then the link below is the audit report. It takes you to the website where there's all the audit reports. Yeah, maybe we just go page by page. So is there anything else on page 2?
I think I have, but I have to admit.
The supplemental information is the same, as well as, and you'll see in there that we included, that the start of 2015 to April 22, approximately 35 million is paid or encumbered for Measure J.
Yes.
And as you know, Measure J is for 35 million. So we're right in there.
Perfect.
And that link is correct as well. The next section is the incomplete DSA. We still mention the same two because we are still waiting for the final blessing from DSA. Everything's been turned in for the library. And as we know, the library is linked to an old DSA number as well. So all of that remains the same. If this changes before June 15th, I can update it with and just simply say that
Everything's been done.
Resolved.
Do you expect that to happen?
Yeah, we keep pushing weekly.
Weekly.
So, yeah, because I would love to put that in this year's report that finally everything is done. But all the old 32 projects, 33 are done. It just, like I said before, for some reason they linked to the library with an old project, old A number. So, but that link is still valid. And again, if it changes by June 15th, I'll update it and send it. Master plan stuff, that link is highlighted in yellow because that was not, when you click on that link, it still doesn't take us to the newest budget plan that Alan and I did. So that'll be resolved obviously in the final report. And that includes the project list and budget list that went to the board in February that the board has approved. It just, this link still takes us to the one from last year's report. So that's just an
So
intro.
it's a reminder to you to update it.
Yeah, that's why it's highlighted in yellow. It's a reminder to me, actually.
Okay.
So, but yeah, that'll be corrected.
So it says here, in order of pool replacement. Time to ask about the pool from the plan.
We can, hold on, we can get down there. The bond program manager wanted to note that we added in the sentence that the district has also added bond skilled maintenance worker that solely works on bond projects. This allowed to the district to reduce costs on smaller bond funded construction jobs.
Is that the man I met at Matilaha?
Yes.
Okay.
Kelly.
Oh, no, there was a gentleman at Matilaha when we did the walkthrough. I don't know who he was.
That was Alan.
Oh, okay, no,
No?
no, thought it was maintenance. Okay, I'm not sure.
Oh, that was David Rogers.
Yeah,
He's the director of operations.
oh, okay, gotcha. Okay,
David, yeah, I forgot David joined us for that.
okay,
Yeah, so that wasn't in previous years.
Right.
Before. We added that.
okay. So is that the Kelly then that Tiffany was talking about?
Correct.
Yes.
Perfect, okay.
Yeah. And,
We wanted to make sure that that got into the report to
Yeah.
the community, because that's a big, we think that's, at least I thought it was a really
Okay.
it's a nice cost saver, that's for sure. So we were able to renovate the Nordoff locker rooms, basically all in-house. So, and we just did the student services building in Nordoff, all in-house. So saves us quite a bit of money.
Plus, one of the benefits of that is that we get to harass Kelly all the time about saving money because he's out of a job when the money's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been a great hire. He actually, he lives down the street and so it's close local and he's been fantastic. So.
Okay. Next page.
Next page is the Citizens Oversight Committee role, basically. And we just made a couple changes in there stating that previously it said November of 14 and it went into Measure J, the 35 million. We also added November of 2020 regarding the $45 million Measure J. And then we also added some of the projects, including the pool, campus solar, some of those. So
Is that for every campus or just particular?
solar?
Yeah.
Solar will be at Nordoff, Matilaha, and Tokto. The other campuses just didn't really, they don't pencil out in terms of what needs to be done, or there's certain site restrictions that wouldn't allow us to do it.
You don't want to put solar on the roof of San Antonio?
We would love to. We would love to. But some of those, yeah, if we put it on the roof, we end up having huge structural upgrade costs.
Oh, yeah.
Or we thought, oh, it'd be amazing to put it at Miramani in that long parking lot.
Yeah.
But it's got to be 20 feet off the property line and it's too close to the homes there. And then if you put it in the field at there or Miners Oaks, it became really long runs to the electrical stations. And so it became just not cost prohibitive for a 20-year return. So.
Yeah, the rest of the stuff is pretty much boilerplate.
Pretty much. So, John, I wanted to touch on the pool. The pool is still in discussion. It was on the board meeting on May 11th, and then we had a special board meeting workshop just for the pool on Monday. And so the board would like to see some more info, potentially a feasibility study, basically some programming questions, and then we'll bring it back to the board eventually.
It
So
was a nice discussion in the paper about the length of the pool.
correct. There's a, we
Yeah.
kind of settled on the minimum is 35 meters, which is actually bigger than Villanova's pool. So it's a substantial upgrade from the current pool we have.
What is the length of
The
that?
current pool is only 7 lanes, 25-yard pool. A 35 meter is 14 lanes.
Okay, oh, wow.
So which allows for some more shallow end space, warm-up lanes, and the ability to host multiple.
Did they decide where they're gonna put it? So that means they're gonna put it where the.
Not yet.
Not yet, okay.
Did the city participate at all on Monday?
We had one council member here just to speak, but I understand that the school district and the city are
They're discussing it, yeah.
So you have to do studies for feasibility, whatever you just said. Who pays for that?
Bond.
Does that come out of bond money?
Yes. The bond pays for it, but it would be, it is something that has to be voted on by the board.
Okay.
So
Board decides how to spend the money.
pretty much, and yeah, basically anything under like 25 grand, that has to be board approved. So, any sort of study like that would require board approval.
There was some talk in that article about raising community funds to improve beyond what's there. Do we participate in that at all or encourage that?
We haven't stayed, no.
The community track was
Yeah, we were talking about
Built.
that, the stadium.
Bill, it was built with a lot of stadium. Money built.
Right. It was, and for instance, the stadium lights were, I think a PTA project actually over at Nordoff. That was, obviously quite
And the
a
track
long time
was
ago.
funded by a private donor.
Part of the Measure K though is a pool in terms of that. That was one of the big points of Measure K. Measure J, it was desired in Measure J, but there was a lot of need, obviously, across all the campuses. So when Measure K was proposed, that was one of the bigger points was the pool. And our pool is definitely dying.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
slow that.
So sad.
So
sad.
Yeah.
I mean, community support is always welcome, but the school district can't build something expecting future community support, right, to pay for it, because, that
May not
wouldn't
be
be feasible, wouldn't be there. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's an ongoing discussion, but it's exciting at least that it's being discussed. So we got it out there, and there's a lot of excitement for it, I'll say. So,
Yeah.
Is there any other discussion on the draft report?
The only other thing, I'll go run through real quick. On page 5, we added again Measure K in there. It was approved by 62%. Measure J was 68%. So we added some of that language in there. Moving on, this is all boilerplate stuff regarding the audits and everything. We did in there, actually put in there that the Measure J and Measure K funds are audited on an annual basis. We put a link to the Citizens Oversight Committee page on the website, which is the correct page as well. And then in section 4, the background information, we did add some information about Measure K as well. The beginning talks primarily about Measure J, and then as you go down, it starts discussing needs A, B, and C, which are roughly 100 million, 57 million, and whatnot. And then it goes on to in 2020, the average age of the district is nearly 70 years. With the help of Measure J, from 2014 to 2020, we were able to do replacing roofs and whatnot. But basically discusses that there was a need for Measure K, and that was known when Measure J passed as well. And that's it.
A nice report.
Any other comments? Okay. So you'll take all that in consideration and get, before the next meeting, we'll have a updated draft to review.
How does enrollment affect this expenditure? I mean, it's not really under our purview, but
It's not.
yeah.
It doesn't, enrollment doesn't really affect the bond. So we go off the project list that's been identified by, site administration, ourselves. The original needs assessment actually as well is still used. So we have the project list and kind of just go through and figure out what's the best timing for what project. And for instance, the pool, the pool is kind of the, big piece of Measure K. The pool and solar are kind of like what we call the crown jewels of Measure K. But once we figure out the size, location, and all of that of the pool, that'll help us figure out some of the other stuff that we need to do. For instance, the stadium upgrades or whatnot. And so that's one of the reasons we did the master plan in 2020 for Nordoff in particular, is because there's so many moving pieces to Nordoff and figuring out the best place for stuff. And we don't want to be, one of the big things Alan and I have always preached since we came on was let's do it right. And let's do it right the first time. And let's not, build something and then say, oh, well, we got to rip up half this concrete because now we want to put something else over there. Let's strategically build it and place it. So, but the enrollment doesn't really impact our project list currently.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where you would paint a classroom, whether there were 20 or 30 students in the classroom.
Right.
The only place I can see where it has an impact is buying desks and chairs, for instance. If you have to buy 2,000 chairs instead of 2,500 chairs, we're gonna have a little cushion to apply to another project.
Right.
That's
For the most
Well,
part,
or if we spend, or if you spend all this money on a particular school that has poor enrollment, and 2 years later that school closes, then we've wasted a
be a-
lot of money on that
Right.
school.
Yeah.
That's where enrollment, I think, could be a really big issue.
I'd like to say
That's-
something about the chairs. So we did buy a bunch of chairs for all the elementary campuses. And like I was explaining before, one of our jobs is to save the district more money than they pay us. And so one of the methods that we can use to purchase items without going to bid is to use something that's been pre-qualified by previous bids. And one of those methods is called a piggyback, where somebody else did it and we just get the same deal, or a CMAS, which is a state level bid. And so when we bought the chairs, we used the CMAS contract, or we were given a quote from a CMAS contract. And we looked at those chairs and we said, this is not a $133 chair. I mean, I would not pay that myself for it. We're not going to pay that. So did some research and found a piggyback deal where we got basically the same chair, different vendor, but essentially the same chair, same lifetime warranty for $67. So we saved $112,000 on that purchase in the one fell swoop.
What do you do with other chairs? Can you sell those to other districts or anything like that? Can you
Yeah.
make any on that?
Yeah, the old chairs were donated to a company in Oxnard because we couldn't find anyone to buy them.
a lot of districts are able to, like, but frankly, a lot of our stuff is so old that the other districts already moved on past it, and so they don't have a need for it either.
Okay.
So,
Are there any plans to shift the district office to Miners Oaks or anything like that? That would affect what you're doing.
not currently. They are obviously discussed. That's been a hot topic. This district property in particular, has been a hot topic for. Well, it's been technically, a hot topic for 20 years.
Yeah.
Over the last, 6-8 months, it's been, another hot topic, but as of right now, no.
So that doesn't affect the bond money at all, right?
It'll affect the bond money if indeed everybody's staying and they decide, yeah, we're staying, then we will start putting some money into this property. In particular, paint, paving, some of the roofs, stuff like that. But some of the stuff that has been, put on hold.
But that would be up to the school committee. We
Right.
don't have any, as long as
Stuff
it's,
that we bring to the board and say, look, this is what needs to be done.
Yeah.
It's gonna be X amount for a design professional to, go through all the paving, go through DSA on everything. And then on top of that, we'll bid it out, and this is gonna be the price to do all of that. But that again would be the school board's discretion.
well, the next agenda item is, anybody have any suggestions for future agenda items?
Our next meeting is the 15th
Of June,
of June, back here.
right here?
Same channel, same time.
Yeah.
And the plan it, the only thing I currently have on the agenda is approval of the annual report, obviously.
That's pretty much our job. That's getting the annual report out.
But if anybody has anything else, definitely let us know.
Anybody else have anything then I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Hey, Bill,
Yes.
I wanted
met my
to,
son.
next time we meet in person, I want to chat with you and tell you about my experience working in Mexico, because I think your son Matt and Aubrey were there. We were helping build homes together a couple of weeks ago.
Right. In fact, I was with Matt this afternoon and he mentioned, I was gonna mention the same thing to you. He really enjoyed meeting you.
Yeah, it was a good trip.
Yeah. Yeah, they've gone down, well, you probably have too. They've gone down there several times.
Yeah, it was my first trip.
Oh, okay. Yeah, good stuff. Well, get well soon. I'm looking forward to seeing you.
All right, thanks, guys. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Feel better, Alan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good meeting you.
Very nice meeting you.
Thank you. I will tell Abby as soon as I get home, Donna.
Out there.
Yeah, give her my love.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yes, my pleasure.
Thank you very much.